It is just after 5:30, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. There will be a lot of time for people to join in, and this presentation is also being recorded. That'll be available on Facebook and YouTube, so you all can share it later on with friends who couldn't join tonight. But again, mahalo everyone for joining tonight's webinar. My name is Jill Wirt, and I will be your MC for tonight. I'm a project manager with Maui Nui Marine Resource Council. Tonight's webinar will feature 4 experts who will share about citizen science opportunities on Maui. Citizen science offers an opportunity for people from all walks of life and all ages to contribute to scientific research and make a real impact on the world. Through citizen science projects, individuals help collect data and monitor the environment, track changes in animal populations, identify new species, and contribute to research on a range of important topics such as climate change, public health, and biodiversity. Maui Nui Marine Resource Council is celebrating 15 years of working for clean ocean water, healthy coral reefs, and abundant native fish. Our work wouldn't be possible without the support of viewers like you. Tonight's presentation is part of Maui Nui Marine Resource Council's monthly Know Your Ocean Speaker Series, usually held on the first Wednesday of each month at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom. This monthly series is supported by the County of Maui. Before we get started, I wanted to share a few announcements from Maui Nui Marine Resource Council. Last year, the dive team deployed 3 Aqualink buoys pictured here on the left, just offshore of Kalama Park, Olowalu, and Ma'alaya. The buoys transmit live data about water temperature, wind, and wave action. You can view all of the data from Maui and other buoys around the world in real time at aqualink.org/map. Speaking of water quality data, you can also support continued water quality monitoring by becoming a trained water quality sampling volunteer. This community-based water quality monitoring program, launched and conducted by Maui Nui Marine Resource Council, the Nature Conservancy, and West Maui Ridge to East Initiative in partnership with the State of Hawaii Department of Health Clean Water Branch, tests ocean water quality every 3 weeks at 29 locations in South and West Maui. If you're a Maui resident looking for more volunteer opportunities, as we'll hear about more tonight as well, this program always seeks reliable West and South Maui volunteers. Visit huiokavaiola.com for more information. You can also support Hui Okavaiola through their Brown Water Watch program. The beautiful waters of Maui are increasingly being spoiled by storm events, leaving them a muddy brown. Hui Okavaiola needs your help to capture these events through photos and videos. Photos provided by the community will be combined with the images from the Hui to identify sediment hotspots and areas where water quality needs improvement. You can share your brownwater photos at brownwaterwatch@gmail.com. Please include the photo date, the location, and any interesting observations you'd like to share. You can follow Brownwater Watch on Instagram at brownwaterwatch. You can also visit the program page at huiokavaiola.com/brownwaterwatch. And now for tonight's presentation, we will leave time at the end of the presentations to answer your questions and invite you to submit your questions by using the Q&A button on the lower edge of your screen. This presentation is being recorded and streamed to Facebook Live and will be available on our YouTube and Facebook profiles. Our speakers tonight are Katy Hintzen, Ted Cheeseman, Diana Warren, and John Starmer. Our first speaker tonight will be Katy Hintzen. Katy is an extension agent with the University of Hawaii's SeaGrant College program, specializing in coastal resilience and a climate adaptation services liaison with the Pacific Islands Climate Adaptation Science Center. Her work focuses on helping communities prepare for and adapt to changing climate conditions, coastal hazards, and sea level rise. In addition to her climate adaptation work, Hintzen is the projects and partnerships coordinator for the Ulana Ike Center of Excellence. In her role with Ulana Ike, she works to further more equitable and reciprocal partnerships between coastal communities, resource stewards, and researchers across the Pacific Islands region. Hintzen was part of the author team that developed the Kulana Noi'i. Prior to joining Hawaii SeaGrant, Hintzen was an extension agent with Michigan SeaGrant, working on resilience and sustainability in the Great Lakes region. She served as a Peace Corps volunteer in the Ecuadorian Amazon. Katy has an MS in Natural Resources and Environment from the University of Michigan, and a BA in history from McGill University. So Katy, I will let you take it from here.
Hey, thank you so much, Jill. I swear my bio got longer. Thank you for sharing that. I'll go ahead and share my slides so folks can see. Okay. So aloha everyone. As was mentioned, my name is Katy. I work at the University of Hawaii SeaGrant College Program, and I'm really excited to be here today and have the opportunity to share with you a project that we have through Hawaii SeaGrant that's focused on community science to help our coastal communities better understand and prepare for sea level rise. So really quick context, Hawaii SeaGrant is part of a national network of SeaGrant programs around the country. We have SeaGrant offices in all of the coastal states as well as the Great Lakes states, and our mission is to enhance the practical use and conservation of coastal marine and Great Lakes resources. And this project is part of that mission. So this is the Hawaii and Pacific Islands King Tides project. It's a community science project that uses crowdsourced photographs and observations to document the impact of the highest high tides of the year, also known as king tides, across the Pacific region along our coastlines. And the reason that we're interested in documenting king tides is because they allow us to understand what our shorelines might look like with the future of sea level rise. So through our project, we ask community scientists to snap the shore in order to help us to see the future. The project is Pacific-wide, and we have communities participating in Hawaii, American Samoa, the Marshall Islands, and Guam, although a majority of our images and data and participating community scientists are from the Hawaiian Islands. So Jill already shared a little bit about the concept of citizen science or community science. One of the reasons that we love community science for this project is it allows us to collect data at a much larger scale than we would ever be capable of as individuals or even as an organization. And also the community science model helps us to really build stronger relationships between scientists and society, to engage communities and empower communities in active dialogue about the implications of sea level rise for the places they care about and the opportunities for adaptation action. So this project utilizes a technology that we all carry with us pretty much everywhere. Many of you probably have it in your pocket right now, or even watching this webinar on a smartphone. But we also tap into a really important collective local knowledge of our coastlines. So one of my biggest lessons learned from this project is just the incredible place-based knowledge that exists within our communities that can really help us to understand climate change impacts at the local level. So we work with community scientists who are fishers, surfers, paddlers, people who have many years, decades, even multiple generations of knowledge of their coastlines. And that's really important to help us in understanding these sea level rise implications and adaptation futures. Some of the aims of our project include to educate and train community scientists on coastal processes and natural hazards, to observe and document water levels during king tide events, to discuss how we can actively work towards preventing, withstanding, and adapting to and recovering from coastal hazards, and to apply community science-generated data towards research, policy, and climate change adaptation planning. And I'll dive into some of the ways in which the data collected through this project is used later on. But firstly, some of you are probably starting to think, like, what the heck is a king tide? A king tide is simply the highest high tide of the year. And they happen when the sun, the moon, and the earth are in alignment, and when the moon is in its closest point in its orbit to the earth. And these tidal events are really predictable seasonal high water level events. So generally in the Hawaiian Islands, we see these highest high tides of the year, once in the winter months and once in the summer months. So there are times when we know that there will be especially high water levels, and we can organize people to go out and document the impacts of those high water levels. Another way we might think about it is, here is the the daily tide from the Honolulu tide gauge. So you can see along the bottom here, we have time, and along the side, we have the height of the tide. So we have 2 high tides and 2 low tides in a day in Honolulu. If you expand that out over a month, not all high tides and low tides are created equal, right? Some high tides and some low tides are more extreme than others, and that's because of this interplay of gravity. If we continue that out for an entire year, so this is all the data from the Honolulu tide gauge, for a century, for 100 years, you can see we have these extreme high tide events. And we can also see this red line in the middle, that the average water level is increasing over time. So if we think about as average water levels increase, as we extend that red line out for another 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, eventually it will reach the height of these circles, these extreme high tides we have. So what are today's extreme high tides are tomorrow's average water level, tomorrow's norm. And that's what allows us to get an understanding of the realistic implications of sea level rise for the places we care about on the ground. So we saw some data from Honolulu tide gauges. This is the global picture of sea level rise over time. So the blue is gathered from global tidal gauges, and then the sort of red dots come into play when we start looking at sea level height from satellites. And so you can see that we have increasing sea level over time at a faster and faster rate. I think this is not new for many people. Our best estimates are we'll see around 3 feet of sea level rise before 2100. Sorry, the automatic light in my office just went off. And these graphs can be kind of abstract sometimes, right? Kind of confusing, kind of difficult to understand. What does that really mean for me and really mean for the places that I care about? Pictures, I think, do a much better job of communicating what we can really expect to be the implications of sea level rise for the coastlines that we spend time on. And so that's part of why this project is so beneficial, is it helps people connect those dots and observe and see for themselves what future sea level rise will look like at a local level. So we have about 800 individuals that have participated in workshops and activities through this project. We have a database now of over 3,000 photographs that are all publicly accessible of king tide impacts across the Pacific. And we have over 300 community scientists that actively engage and continue to collect data through this project. So here you can see a little bit of a demonstration of what our website looks like, and I'll share more on this website later. But we have an interactive map where you can zoom in to specific places around the Hawaiian Islands and the broader Pacific and see all the photographs that have been submitted of different places. And when you click on those little photo icons, you can see not just a high resolution picture, but also the date, the time, and really importantly, the observations that community scientist contributed when they took the photo. So that's where our local knowledge of these places comes into play, that people can share the kinds of information that they're observing and the kinds of knowledge that they have of that coastline through those comments. So it's a really useful website for anyone who's involved in education or communication to be able to collect easily and access high quality images of tidal flooding and potential sea level rise impacts. So some of those impacts that we've documented through these really powerful pictures are things like impacts to tourism and recreation, to homes and residences along the coastline, to businesses and commerce, to cultural and subsistence resources, to our stormwater systems and our infrastructure. We've seen wave runup and overwash, and erosion and scouring. So that just gives you like a tiny slice of the kinds of information and pictures that you can access on our website. And I should say that that website is also where you go to submit photographs. It's really easy. There's like a giant blue button on it that says submit a photo. And you click that button and it will walk you through all the steps of either taking a picture in real time or uploading a photo from your phone and then adding in the information about the place, the time, and the observations. So it's a very user-friendly. You don't have to download an app. You just go to the website, click the giant blue button, and like roll. And I'll share our website moving forward. So how are the observations and photos utilized? One of the really exciting ways that we see these pictures utilized is through informing research. So there's all kinds of folks out there that are doing modeling, that are trying to understand the future of sea level rise and flooding on our communities, but they need help kind of ground truthing these models and understanding if the kinds of impacts that they're predicting are really what happens when we see extreme high water level events. So these community science photos help us to do that. So for example, this is a paper that comes out of the University of Hawaii Coastal Geology Group. They mapped and modeled groundwater inundation in Honolulu. And the researchers used community science images from King Tide events to help validate and ground truth model results. This is a slightly different project, but it's another one that uses King Tide's photographs from my colleague in Maui, Tara Owens. And this is looking at King Tide's photographs submitted by community scientists to help with calibrating a wave model run-up for West Maui. So they're working on being able to generate a 6-day forecast for a wave run-up in the West Maui area. And they needed photographs to help understand where should they set the thresholds, what should be counting as light impacts, hazardous, or critical. And those images of real life on the ground instances of wave run-up help them really to do that. We've also seen a lot of the images used in communication about sea level rise and about sea level rise impacts. In 2017, in particular, we had a major King Tide event in the Hawaiian Islands, and we saw over 250 media features using images from the King Tides project. So the images get used a lot in media and communication, and I think that's really helpful for driving home messaging around climate change. And then the images are also used to inform policy. So King Tide's photos have been used in a number of state and county level planning documents and processes, including the West Maui Community Plan, which you can see here. And here's just one example from Honolulu. These are some panels that were used in the most recent Honolulu Development Plan to engage residents in conversation about potential responses to sea level rise and adaptation options. So these were used in open houses and community focus groups and response sessions. So they were able to see King Tide's photographs with corresponding places around the city, and then that could help to spark conversation about potential development options or adaptation options. So that's the kind of overview of the project, the sorts of images that are collected and what they are used for. We would love to have more people engaged from Maui. We will have King Tides coming up again in the summer, and we will have a photo survey event where we give you the dates and times of the King Tides in your place and ask you to go out and take pictures. And the best way to be involved is to join our mailing list. You can join either by using this QR code, or I will try to talk and chat at the same time, or maybe Meredith can share this link for me. This is a link to the mailing list where you can sign up and get information about future photo surveys. And then the website, which I promised to share, is very easy. It's Pacific Islands kingtides.org. When in doubt, that's the place you go to. And it's where you can submit images and where you can access that database of over 3,000 public images. So I will stop there, but I want to say thank you to everyone, and you can feel free to contact us via email, or I'll be around for questions later. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Katie. Wow, that is a lot of data and you articulated it very well. So thank you. I'm sure we'll get some questions at the end. I will go ahead and introduce Diana now. Diana Papini-Warren is the Executive Director of Learning Endeavors, a nonprofit organization based in Kihei, providing innovative education programs for youth and adults. Warren holds a certificate in school leadership and management and secondary science teaching credential, an MS in education, and is currently serving as the Maui liaison for the Hawaii Association of Science Teachers. She has taught at various Maui schools in science, STEM, and technology subjects over her 23 years on the island, but often held a role outside of schools, designing and offering professional development for teachers and securing funding to do so. citizen science and use of geospatial technology and GIS remain a deep passion for Diana. So I will let you take it from here. Thank you so much for being here today.
Aloha, everybody. I'm so honored to be here tonight. Thank you, Maui Nui Marine Resource Council and Jill and friends. I asked Meredith to share my slides because sadly I don't have great connection. I hope you can hear me and see me okay. I'm sure you'll let me know, Jill. I just have a few slides. I wanted to share two highlights of citizen science projects that people can jump in on. And yeah, thanks, Meredith. We can jump in and show these slides. So yeah, I appreciate the introduction. I'm really pleased to be the Director of Learning Endeavors, a small nonprofit based on Maui, and we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary. I'll share a little more about it and then jump back into the citizen science. But we do, yeah, the next slide shares our mission, which is to inspire the next generation of leaders by developing and managing innovative education programs in Hawaii and beyond. We have several core beliefs, but the two that relate closely to citizen science are the fact that we believe it's really important to integrate real world problem solving as a part of education so that our youth can become empowered citizens in their communities at an early age. And the other one is we love geospatial technology and believe that they are the cutting edge important tools that help us to be good critical thinkers and leaders in our worlds, making place-based decisions. So that's a little bit about learning endeavors. I'm not sure, it's not viewing full screen. I think if you click on the button that says slideshow, it'll go full screen or not, whatever works.
Yeah, it keeps glitching and it won't let me show the
Oh.
full screen. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We'll just go through them. It's kind of nice. It gives me a heads up on what's next. So the next slide is, so actually early on, we established an initiative called Citizen Science Hawaii, just to be a portal and sort of an inspiration for more people, educators, youth, and others to get involved in citizen science because we love it. There's two different initiatives I wanted to share how we're using citizen science, and everyone's welcome to join. So next slide will be the first one, Wetland Warriors, and then I'll come back to Champions of Coastal Resilience. And so yeah, Wetland Warriors is one initiative. We were recently part of some county funding, Maui County funding. And we've loved wetlands for a long time and encouraged people to use iNaturalist in any ecosystems. But this one in particular, I wanted to mention and invite people to help because we need to protect our remaining wetlands so much. And so iNaturalist is basically a free app. If you've never heard of it, use it. It's so cool. It's a free app you can install on your smartphone and collect any kind of biodiversity information. So anything alive in the wild, plants, birds, insects, take pictures, upload it, and there's a whole community of naturalists and scientists that will help identify things, and new species have been identified. But we started a particular project within iNaturalist that's specific to the state of Hawaii. But for sure, we want to encourage Maui citizen scientists to join. So if you click the next slide, I'll show you a little bit about how it works. So it's super neat because it's got a really user-friendly app and dashboard on your computer. So you take a picture, that's called observing, and then you share it and you upload it. And whether you know what it is, you're taking a picture of it or not, doesn't matter. So if you click the next slide, I think I have a screenshot that kind of shows if you're on your computer and you create your account on iNaturalist, then you can click one more time and it'll show you another screenshot. So there's like this community, right? And if you click under community and go down to projects, click one more time, see where projects is, and then click again, and you'll see the Wetland Warriors project. So just search up Wetland Warriors, and it's a Hawaii Wetland Citizen Science project. And then we can go to the next slide and see kind of what it looks like. We're just inviting people to visit wetlands. So if you just kind of start clicking, it'll go through the steps in the process. Visit a wetland, open your iNaturalist app, click on observe, which invites you to take a picture of a plant, animal. And then if you know it's a Hawaiian stilt, for instance, like on the left-hand side, the screenshot shows that I kind of typed in Hawaiian stilt and identified it as I uploaded it, but you don't have to do that. You can just upload the picture, even if you have no idea what it is you took a picture of, and then click share. Then feel good because you're part of this important citizen science project. You're a wetland warrior helping to save Hawaii's wetlands. And then the last step, is there one more step? Yeah, keep learning and keep taking pictures and adding data. And one of the things you can do is get back on the computer on the dashboard, and there's a whole geospatial component where you can analyze the data that's been collected. So this project, as I said, was part of some Maui County funding, or that's what helped kick it off. But we trained 12 teachers last Saturday how to use it, Maui educators, and then we're hosting all of them on different field trips. They're students out in different Maui wetlands. And so that will be an activity that one of the activities that they will do out in the field is learn how to be a citizen scientist. So if fourth graders and high school students can do it, anybody can do it. And we welcome you all to join in, and hopefully what we're doing will be meaningful, as usual with all science projects, science research. The more data, the better. So I think if we go to the next slide, it'll just sort of say, join us. So that's the first citizen science project I wanted to share about. The next one is a part of an initiative called Champions of Coastal Resilience. And the citizen science piece is really just collecting coastal data. This is a statewide initiative, but we welcome all Maui folks to join in. You can check out more about the larger initiative at this website. I'll give you a couple bits of information, and then I'll dive into what the app for this citizen science project looks like. We go to the next slide. Oops, are you there? Am I the one glitching? Can you go to the next slide, please? Oh, thank you. So we've got some federal funding from NOAA to establish this climate science initiative. And this is the poster child for our initiative. I went on a King Tide because I love the King Tide project. In fact, we try and tell all the teachers and kids in our initiative about it. I went down on a King's Tide. You might recognize where this is, Oluwalu. It's unfortunately a spot where the sand comes up at high tides regularly, and I was just going to get the sand on the road, and here was this monk seal right next to the road. Sadly, I was so happy to see DoCare, the officer, coming to protect it until the volunteers showed up to protect the monk seal. But anyway, I just wanted to introduce you. The next slide shares, since 2019, we have trained over 50 teachers across the state. And if you go to the next slide, there should be a map showing the reach of the program. Not sure. Yeah, and some of the kids. So it's all ages, and it's really about coastal field ecology, gaining knowledge there, getting some solid climate science understanding, modeling sea level rise, modeling different projected outcomes and impacts from climate change, and then taking action. So a big part of taking action for our initiative is citizen science. And we also do a storytelling bit where all students do a 2-minute movie to tell the story, a story about their coastline, how it's changing, what we can do about it. But if you go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the citizen science piece, and then I'll wrap it up. So what we did, we love ArcGIS, Esri's tools. We always do paper version for that option. So we have a field data sheet that's paper clipboard style, but we also have the ArcGIS Survey 123 data collector form that we created as a part of this grant. And so basically similar to the projects, the other projects, you're really taking a bit of data and some images and uploading them to be part of this larger data collection project. So on the right, you can see the first screenshot of the app. And if we go to the next screen, I'll walk you through a little more information. If you're not familiar with ArcGIS, it is the industry standard for GIS, Geographic Information System, digital mapping software. And ArcGIS Survey 123 is like one app. They have several different field data collectors, but this one's cool. You install a free app, Survey 123. You can scan that QR code right now if you have your phone handy, and you can jump on our app. When you scan that, and when you go to the app, you can either view it in the installed app on your phone or just go to the browser version. So we'll jump ahead and I'll show you what it looks like. But that's a picture of some folks fixing turtle fences near Kalia Ponds, but you can see the dunes are highly impacted, and there may have been a king tide just then. It was really high tide. So this is kind of what it looks like. You don't have to make an ArcGIS online account to collect data. Anybody can do it. The idea is that you're helping us to add data to this coastal resilience effort. So you fill in what you can, skip the rest. The app will automatically, using GIS, GPS technology, it'll find your location and automatically put your lat long in there. And then you can upload the pictures that you take. What we do is we walk you through certain data that's aligned with our data sheet. So what shoreline type is it? Is it sandy beach or wetland or coastal dune? What's the slope? It's very simplified, right, for education, for students to be able to use. And then there's some erosion. Is there visible erosion or not? Not sure. What do you see? Add pictures. We always love to see group pictures of the scientists, and then upload a wide shot of the coastal area and then some up close pictures. So I think if you click on the next slide, I might be about done. I just wanted to welcome folks to, oh yeah, you have to click the check mark at the bottom. Part of our CCR program, though, is encouraging stewardship along with citizen science. So we hope that they're picking up some marine debris. We hope they might help with removing invasive species or working with a partner on a different restoration project. So anyway, we ask them to mark that as well. And then you submit. And that is all I was going to share. So if you click 2 more times, so Wetland Warriors is open to all citizen scientists, champions of coastal resilience. Help us. And for sure, there's several other citizen science projects. We try to integrate citizen science in all the things we do. To learn more about us, you can visit our website, learningendeavors.org. There's a wetlands page if you wanted to find out what we're doing with that county funding. We just train teachers, we're doing those field trips, and we're certainly encouraging folks to value and malama our wetlands in South Maui in particular. And then CCR, we have a nice new video on that CCR webpage that talks about our approach and how we use our app for citizen science and much more. So I hope this was helpful. I'll stick around as well for the Q&A. But thank you again for this opportunity. I'm honored to be with real scientists. I'm more of an education professional that loves science and believes we need more scientists in our future. Scientific literacy is very important. So thanks, you guys. Thanks, Jill. I'll just mute and I'll be here for Q&A.
Thank you, Diana. That was great. There's so many fun ways to get involved, as we see just by the use of smart technology. So now it's very common and makes it pretty accessible and user-friendly. So thank you for sharing both of those projects. I am going to introduce Ted Cheeseman. He grew up in California. He's a son of a naturalist and zoology professor couple whose shared mission in life was to educate the public about wildlife. Ted began going to sea and getting seasick at a very young age, and first worked as expedition staff in Antarctica in 1994. Ted continues to work in Antarctica every austral summer and is currently working on a PhD studying humpback whale population dynamics. Ted is the co-founder of the marine mammal research collaboration and citizen science platform, happywhale.com. Thanks for being here, Ted. Go ahead and let us know what you're working on.
Cheers. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Great opportunity. Super fun to be here. I'm going to see if this all works with sharing screens and such. Can you see that? Does that work right?
Yes, looks great.
Well? And you see just the one picture, right?
Yep, just the happy whale whale.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. Well, brilliant. Look, I'm just delighted to be here. I guess I'm not going to talk too much about the process and more kind of what it's all for. I'll touch on the process a little bit, but basically the short of it is this: we have I'm trying to get rid of the little thingy on the side here. There we go. Good. Yeah, so I'm Ted Cheeseman. I am based, actually, I'm not in Hawaii. I'm based in Santa Cruz, California. So looking across the pond at you guys over there 3 hours earlier. And but a lot of my work is focused on Hawaii and your seasonal whales there, the humpbacks that are just about now starting to head up to Alaska and Russia, and all parts kind of on a half spoke of a wheel, migrating away from the breeding areas to feeding areas. So, excuse me. So this talk is really about what we've done, and kind of to jump into the heart of it. Let's see, why isn't it advancing? Hello. Come on, there we go. Okay. So every animal is an individual. Seems like an obvious basic thing to say. But humpback whales, the focus of my study, are kind of our banner or poster child in this, and that they're really a diverse and complex species. They migrate widely around the entire, every ocean of the world, and in particular in the North Pacific, from Hawaii to all the areas from Hawaii that have good feeding opportunities from them. And we can tell individuals apart, which is this fantastic tool for research and for understanding individuals, and actually even also to get to know individuals. So with individual identification, or photo ID, is the basis of this tool. And with humpbacks, when they dive, they often lift their tails, and when they lift their tails, every single one has a unique tail. Here's a bunch of Antarctic humpbacks, actually, which is where I've spent the most time in the field. So every humpback whale has this unique tail, and you can look at the patterns. Actually, all the brown on here are annually changing diatoms, but all the white and the black, these are persistent patterns. What you need to identify an individual is a persistent pattern, something that lasts for a long time, preferably the entire life of the animal, and also to be able to see it, right? So we use our faces to identify each other. That's really great. In the last decade, facial recognition technology has really changed that from something that, match a mugshot, to, we've got a global database of many hundreds of millions of people, and individuals being able to match within that. for humpback whales, this was started in the 70s, and they were kind of the poster child of photo ID. Take two pictures and look at it and say, wow, that's the same whale. I saw that whale here last year at this time, or I saw that whale in Hawaii, and now we saw the whale in Alaska. But as this technique grew, it became a more and more laborious process to be able to match photos. So the background here is we're building from a project that was done just shy of 20 years ago that took 8,000 different individuals, or they found 8,000 individuals in a data set of 18,000 encounters. So imagine 18,000 images like this, right? And trying to find, hey, here's one whale. Cool, that was lucky. I found the match on the fifth photo I looked at. But then this next photo, I've been looking for an hour. Did I miss the whale, or is it in fact a new whale? And that became basically a bottleneck. That after this project, after the huge effort that went into this project to map migratory patterns and to study, to try to understand populations, well, it kind of really slowed down, and lots of other projects, lots of individual projects in individual areas that kind of stayed to themselves and didn't share a lot of data because it was just so time intensive. So what we've done is kind of two things. One, made a platform that's really accessible, but also automated it so that we took that data and built upon it. And where this was based on 18,000 different encounters, we now have a data set across the North Pacific that's literally based on 200,000 encounters. And in Hawaii, we know almost every single living humpback whale, which is just the coolest thing. I took a bunch of data from a researcher a few days ago, sent 133 photos. We found in those 133 photos, 113 individuals from Southeast Alaska. Of those, one was new to our database, and 99 of those 113 was actually from Alaska. We found them in breeding areas, most of those in Hawaii. So we know almost every single whale, and this has become a super powerful thing. Why restrict it just to the North Pacific? In fact, we've built one global database so that if your Hawaii whale, instead of right about now, decided to travel north to Alaska being the main destination, but alternately might be British Columbia, might be Washington State, might be Russia, or the high Arctic. What if this whale instead went down to Australia? Totally feasible, right? If they've got tails, they know how to use them. But so far, we have literally never found a North Pacific humpback whale that's migrated south to, Southern Hemisphere, South Pacific, Antarctic, that's kind of thing. But what we have done, so kind of throwing in a little bit of the citizen science aspect of it, in this North Pacific data set, it's about 2/3 research data, but about 1/3 citizen science. And that citizen science or community science has been this hugely valuable supplementary part of it, because like if you look across the Hawaiian Islands, a lot of the humpback research focuses on the Maui Nui Channel, but we know that there's a lot of whales in other parts. We don't get much researcher data out from Kauai or from Oahu, but we know that there are a lot of whales there, and it's been very complementary as well. The citizen science data, whale watchers are out on the water every day, whereas the reality of research funding being what it is, that's just not going to happen. So what it's allowed us to do is have a lot more consistency and see, hey, when did this whale show up? When did this leave? And especially in situations where we have a critical issue for one animal, such as an entanglement. Here's a whale that was entangled. It was first seen by whale watchers in September of 2016. Entangled. The whale threw its tail up, and so we got a tail photo. We were able to identify a whale known since 1996, and we were able to track this whale through the efforts of citizen scientists. Disentanglement efforts were mounted, not successful. The whale actually did get disentangled of its own accord, but because we were getting these fluke photos, we were able to see the whale left California. And then showed up again the next April. It unfortunately then died, probably because it was starving while it was entangled. So to me, this is, kind of one of the many things we're using it for. Another one is awareness. And I really think that this is, I really love the scientific aspects of this, but I think the open science and the open access element of it probably is the most powerful and profound. And case in point here, headline here, Mercury News is, I think, the third largest newspaper in California. This was front page news. This whale was hit by a ship. It was washed ashore with a broken spine, blunt force trauma, super sad event. And the silver lining of it, it's a pretty tarnished silver in my opinion. I actually saw this whale with her calf a month before this happened. We knew she was 17 years old. We knew this was the first time she brought a calf to California. So it was incredibly sad, but she had been known. She'd been known as Fran, a really well-loved whale, very frequently seen. And because there was this, I don't know, call it personhood, because there was this individual identification of this whale, because we got to know her, it was front page news. And now whenever we're talking about managing ship strikes, which is one of the biggest issues, whales literally getting run over as roadkill, Fran comes up and she becomes the poster child of us changing our ways and not urbanizing the oceans in a way that just runs over these animals that we care about so much. I want to, I don't have much time left already, but I want to talk really quickly about one of my favorite studies that is coming out of this, that is really benefit from the citizen involvement, and that is a collaborative study with the University of Hawaii and Manoa, where they have learned. So I love what I do. I have automated image recognition of these whales. I've built a database. That's kind of, or I should say we, it's been a very collaborative effort. And I've got a whole bunch of data together, and I'm doing my PhD and I'm building population models and all this stuff. But honestly, my favorite parts are some of the downstream things that this is enabling, which is, for example, if you fly under permit a drone over a whale and you get a really high resolution image, you can measure the body shape and thus the condition of that whale. Now, that's a really cool measurement in and of itself. But if you then combine it with photos of that whale, so you see that whale, you identify who that whale is, you can photograph that whale again the next week, the next month. You can see where that whale comes and goes from citizen science efforts, and we can literally watch that whale grow over time. The mom in the top picture there, she is literally shrinking. This was taken in Hawaii. She's going to be shrinking by 2 millimeters a day so that she can deliver enough milk to her calf. She's not feeding while she's in Hawaii. She's delivering enough milk to her calf that her calf is growing by an inch a day. Her calf's putting on something like 100 pounds a day. And we can literally watch this over time, which is super important because we're changing the oceans. And we think that humpbacks in the North Pacific are, and legally, we have determined them to be fully recovered. But just as that determination was made, this marine heat wave that we named the blob, many of you may have recollections of this in 2014, 15, 16. The humpback whale numbers were really weak in Hawaii and abysmal in Southeast Alaska, especially. There was a total breeding failure. Even in coastal California, thousands of miles away, we had pretty strong impacts where the fish distributions were changed. But when we have this kind of really rich data, we can follow these whales through time. We can see, okay, how did they grow or shrink differently in these critical times when marine heat waves are becoming more common. So far we've been very focused on humpback whales, but a little sneak preview into kind of the tech development here. We've just deployed a algorithm that can identify any whale species by its dorsal fin or a lateral view, which is really exciting. This is a case of a blue whale. The photo on the left was the same photo as the whale on the right, or same whale as the whale on the right, first photographed in 1987. Then at some point later, it lost its dorsal fin, looking like it is now, and then most recently photographed this year. So it's really, really exciting working with a bunch of different research groups in Hawaii. And so we're going to be starting to make calls out for not just humpback whales, but other species as well. So the citizen science side of it, I think I've gone over my time, so I'll wrap this up. It's really all we're asking is to, we're not particularly fond of iPhone photos. These little things just don't quite have the resolution to give a good fluke photo or a good dorsal fin photo. But if you have a decent camera, digital camera, set the settings so that the time and date is correct. If you have GPS, turn that on and go whale watching, shoot photos of the whales and submit them to Happy Whale. It's all pretty straightforward. You go into Happy Whale, creates an account as you're uploading images, and on it goes. And then when you submit them to us, we'll tell you who your whale is. Well, then you can follow that whale for the rest of your life, for the rest of that whale's life, and you'll get notifications. Hey, that whale you saw in Hawaii in 2023 has been seen now in Alaska with a calf, and so on and so forth. So finally, a big thanks to the many, many collaborators. This is a woefully incomplete little list, but there you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ted. Wow, that is a lot of data. And there's a lot of whales out there. You know a lot about the whales. So thank you for the work that you do. And I'm sure that there's probably a few wildlife photographers on this webinar. And if not, someone will watch it later. And I know that there's a lot of photographers that like going out whale watching and know about Happy Whale already. So it's great that it's well known, and we just appreciate you sharing it again to our viewers. So if you want to stay on, and then we'll do questions at the end, I'll go ahead and introduce John, who's our last speaker tonight. John has spent over 2 decades as a student, researcher, and resource manager in the tropical Pacific, but with much of that time spent working with local government and NGOs throughout Micronesia to support coral reef conservation. John brings a diversity of expertise in water quality, watershed management, and coral reef monitoring to our team. He currently manages the Maui Nui Marine Resource Council diving program and is growing MNMRC's capacity to evaluate and monitor the condition of coral reef habitats. So I've had the pleasure of working alongside John now for a few years. We've gone to kayak in Ma'alaya Harbor in very windy conditions. We've been scuba diving, so he has a ton of knowledge to share, and we're very excited to have him here today. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Jill, for that kind introduction. Let me make sure I'm sharing my screen here. Can you see that all right?
Looks great.
All right, awesome. So Diana very kindly kind of gave part of my presentation, because really what I'm talking about today is using iNaturalist for citizen science, and in particular, what is effectively now a global BioBlitz, or a big effort to document biodiversity all around the world. And if I can advance, when we talk about citizen science, right, it's like doing science sort of for the greater good. So anybody that is a part of the community can contribute something that is meaningful at a larger scale. And with iNaturalist is actually feeding into something called the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. And I just wanted to share what their kind of overall database looks like. So, the yellow is less observations, red is more observations. GBIF, being sort of initially European entity, has a lot of, the heat is in Europe, but you can see that there's really observations all around the world. And these are observations from scientific research expeditions, from museum collections, but also from citizen science efforts. And iNaturalist is actually a project which feeds into GBIF. And this is the iNaturalist database, and you can see a similar sort of pattern. There's a lot in Europe, there's a lot in the US. And if we zoom in on Maui, there's a lot of Maui. So iNaturalist is a citizen science platform focused on biodiversity. Is a way that people can take pictures, submit them to the platform, and then basically the community helps you with the identification. So one of the cool things is if you see something, and the focus really, I should emphasize, is on wild animals. Don't take pictures of your pets or your significant other and post them, though I suppose you could. Really, it is about trying to document wildlife in the wild, but you have a whole community that will help you figure out what it is. So there are things where I have taken a picture of it with the app, and it's like, I have no idea what it is. I just put plant on it, and somebody comes by and say, oh yeah, this is what the species is. And if you get at least 3 people to agree, it gets termed what is called research grade, and then it gets pushed up to that GBIF database, so that now you're documenting the existence of global biodiversity. The focus really for what I'm talking about, and the City Nature Challenge is iNaturalist, but I just did want to point out that there is also an app by iNaturalist called Seek, which is more kid-friendly. I actually use both of them because Seek, when you open it up, it has this cool little, they both use computer vision, machine learning to identify things. But Seek, as you point something, it's almost like something out of Star Trek. It says, oh yeah, here's what you're looking at, right? It will give you the identification in the app. iNaturalist, you sort of have to take the picture and go through a few steps. So sometimes I'll use them, I'll use the Seek ID and then plug that into iNaturalist. Both of these are free, and as Diane went through, you can just simply get download it to a smartphone. There's also a web version, so if you're not a smartphone person, but you like taking pictures of whale tails and stuff like that, you can actually submit those through the web portal as well. So as an example, let's say you see a cool urchin in a tide pool, you take a picture of it. It'll come up, and if you're not sure of the name, you can hit the ID button, and it'll give you some suggestions, and you can accept those suggestions. So again, worst case, don't leave it as unknown. Say it's an animal, it's a plant, it's, give it your best guess. And there are people that go through and curate things and try and knock it down to some other level of identification. And then there are people that have their things that they love, and they will come through and try and improve those IDs. And that's really one of the cool things about the app, is there's a real community that's trying to improve the data that you've collected, and really you as a citizen scientist are contributing by being in that place at that time and taking a picture of an organism that you saw. You can, if you have a smartphone and you have your location turned on, it makes it really easy. But if you didn't, you could go in and make sure that your location is correct. And here on the far right is an example of what your observation would look like. You've got the picture on the top there. You've got an idea that you can, could have just been Heterocentrotus. In this case, it's Heterocentrotus mammillatus. You agreed with that. You've got a location. You can set geoprivacy. Usually captive or cultivated. Hopefully you're not taking pictures of that. But if you are reviewing an ID, you can say, hey, this is not a wild organism, and tag it as such, because we don't want those in the GBIF databases. So shifting gears a little bit, that's the iNaturalist app. I think Diana really gave a nice intro in terms of how it works and how to use it. Now I want to talk about the City Nature Challenge. So this is something that started in 2016. So iNaturalist actually came out of a UC Berkeley students' master's project back in 2008. And in 2016, or in 2014, California Academy of Sciences sort of took it under its wing. And in 2016, they kind of challenged the LA County Museum of Natural History to sort of a duel using iNaturalist to figure out which city had the most biodiversity. And that first year, there were about 20,000 observations, 1,000 people joined, about 500 in each city, bunch of new records for both areas. And they said, hey, this was pretty cool. So they expanded it in 2017 to the mainland US. And then in 2018, it became international. And that's actually when I had just arrived on Maui and started organizing the City Nature Challenge here on Maui. So you can look at some numbers from 2016. And the numbers, this is just for LA County, the numbers for San Francisco were about the same. And you look at 2022 and over 1.5 million observations, over 50,000 participants, 50,000 species, a bunch of, I think it was close to 3,000 observations of endangered species, just some really interesting and good data collected, all by volunteer scientists. So like I said, I've been organizing the City Nature Challenge for Maui. Maui is small enough, we don't really have a city, so we kind of lumped it into the island. This year we are challenging Hawke's Bay in New Zealand, which is also known as the Hook of Maui, which seemed like a fun thing to do. And we're challenging Oahu, which started doing the City Nature Challenge about 2 years ago. So we're going to see who can get the most participants, get the most observations and things like that, all in good fun. It's easy to do this. Anybody can, if you can download the app, it's literally take a picture. You don't even have to be able to identify or know what it is that you're taking a picture of. Do recommend you say it's an animal, or it's a plant or something to sort of get the ball rolling, and then people will help you refine that. Again, the focus is finding something wild. You can take a picture or you can actually take a sound. A lot of people that do bird observations, that bird song is enough to figure out what it is, so perfectly acceptable. And then you share it through the app. Again, if you don't have a smartphone, there is a web-driven app where you can take your fancy big camera and download the photos and upload it to the iNaturalist platform as well. So if you don't have a smartphone, you can still participate. I did want to mention that I am working with Maui Nui Marine Resource Council now, and one of the things that we're focused on is trying to understand things that are impacting our coastal environments and our coral reefs. And one of the things that does have a big impact is groundwater. And there is an indicator, which is this bright green algae that you see sort of in the shoreline, that is telling you that fresh water is coming out there. So we're doing a few things, looking at where the nutrients coming from. Are they natural nutrients? Are there nutrients derived from sewage and things like that? Are there contaminants in those algae? So we're trying to document areas where these algae are growing. So if you it's a project where you can join that project, or if you're on Maui and you take a picture with your iNaturalist app, it's automatically added to that. So in addition to the City Nature Challenge, which is happening here in April, if you do see green stuff on the beach, please take a picture of it. If you want to learn more about the City Nature Challenge, we will have some little workshops to teach you how to use iNaturalist, either with the iPhone, or if you are taking digital photos through the regular camera, how to interface with the web-based platform. And yeah, check out mauinui.org. We'll have information there. Or if you are part of the if you join the app, you can also then sign up for the City Nature Challenge 2023 project, and you'll get notifications through that. And that's it for me. Thanks very much for listening.
Woohoo! Thanks, John. Really great stuff. The little what is it? The Seek app that you were talking about earlier, it reminds me of the little plant that comes up on iPhoto for photos. If you're taking photos of plants, sometimes it can there's like a little plant ID thing on the, if you
Cool.
press the I, it can help identify plants as well. I don't know the accuracy of it, but I just discovered it the other day because I'm not a very technological person, I guess.
Even I get stumped. So it's the that sort of computer vision technology is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. Thank you to everyone who presented tonight. We do have time for some Q&A. So if you would like to ask any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen, and then I'll go through them with our presenters. If you don't have questions, we can put everyone's contact information in the chat if we would like, or reference this presentation later on. It'll be posted to our Facebook and YouTube channels within the next week or so. I'm not seeing any questions come in yet, but we will give it a couple minutes for people to ponder. If you're viewing on Facebook Live, you can ask your question as a comment, and then it'll be relayed back to me here. So thanks everyone who tuned in. If there aren't any questions, I can start closing us out. And oh, okay, there is one question. This is probably for Ted. Whale tail photos taken with an iPhone, can they, who can people send those to, or where's a good place to submit them?
Well, the thing about iPhones that I don't want to encourage people to try to get too close. Like, it's super, super important to, first and foremost, be a responsible whale watcher, and especially with private boats. And you're like, oh, don't ever zoom up on a whale. Don't ever try to get too close to get the photo. That said, if the whale approaches you and you're close and you get a decent photo with your iPhone, sure, we will try to identify every photo that we get. And at this point in the North Pacific, there is no other entity that is gathering images of this scale globally, and certainly not in the North Pacific. So if you want that photo identified, we're the folks that send it to, a little bit at the risk of our own very overwhelmed feed of images, but it's really awesome. And yeah, we'll try. Yeah.
Thank you.
So to kind of focus on what there is some guidance in Happy Whale. If you go click and submit, there's a little submission guideline. It's really great to take a moment to look at what the photos look like. What we want is the tail where you can see the underside of it as much as possible, as much detail as possible. Folks often say, hey, can I submit video? What we really like with videos is to go through it and take a screenshot of the video of the moments when the tail is most vertical and you can see the most of it, rather than sending us the video, which quite frankly we're probably not going to get to, because we get a lot of images, we value them intensely, but we don't really have time to kind of go through iPhone videos.
That makes sense. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I think this is a question for Katy. I would love to use some of the tables and data from the King Tides plots for our students from all of these presentations, and maybe Diana, you can share yours as well. Is there a way to access them, or we can get a copy?
Yeah, I'm happy to share a copy of slides with the organizers if they are planning on sending out slides to folks. The tide gauge data just comes from the NOAA Tides website, like NOAA Tides and Currents, which I can drop the link in. It's pretty fun. You can get a more local tide gauge as well. I use the example from Honolulu just because we have the 100-year record from Honolulu, but if you want to be using your local tide gauge with your students, you can do that. And then the sea level rise data also comes from a NOAA technical report that's a little more intensive. But I can send you the link for that as well. Yeah, if that answers your question.
Okay, great. And then-
Jill, I was just gonna tag on to that and say, I think I provided a PDF copy of my slides, and if you wanted to attach that, I don't think I have access to the main chat room, but feel free to share my slides in PDF form. I think I shared it with Meredith. I think I share it with all you guys, but I'm
Yeah.
happy to share that. And then if there are educators on, I should have given a plug. We have two Champions of Coastal Resilience teacher workshops happening this summer, one on Maui on June 23rd, and one that's virtual statewide for educators starting in July. And it's a little bit more semester long, and we provide a whole lot more data and things that are useful in the classroom. So please check out learningendeavors.org/CCR, and you can get more information on those teacher workshops. I hope that helps.
Yeah, definitely. And I put my email in the Q&A box as well. So if there are people that are looking for slides, I can have the presenters send me theirs, or, Meredith probably has it as well. And then we can share when people reach out to us. Another question, is there a means of displaying data on an Esri digital elevation model? It would help in assessing the impacts of king tides.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one more time?
Is there a means of displaying data on an Esri digital elevation model?
So to my knowledge, there hasn't been that kind of work. Like we have sea level rise flooding on that kind of elevation based mapping. And you can get a sense, right? So like, I guess in theory, a very extreme king tide could be similar to like anywhere from 1/2 to 1 foot of sea level rise. So there has been some modeling that has that kind of map-based work. And then there are both PAC-IUS does a range of wave run-up modeling, which I showed some screenshots from the West Maui, and that can give you an idea of wave run-up impacts in that way, but I don't know of any tools that have done like a large scale mapping of king tides. There's so much variation based on place as well. I think it would be a little tricky to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so that's great information and great resources for everyone out there. I know it is a little bit over time and late for our friend Ted over on the West Coast. So if there are questions that come in, please feel free to use the Q&A box, and panelists, if you want to keep an eye on the Q&A box, and you can type answers that might be relevant for you. But otherwise, I can go ahead and close us out here tonight and wrap up. Thank you all again for your presentation and sharing your projects and ways to get involved with citizen science on Maui. Please feel free to reach out to us, Meredith at mauireefs.org or Jill at mauireefs.org, and we're happy to share any resources or information. To our audience, thank you for attending Maui Nui Marine Resource Council's Know Your Ocean Speaker Series, sponsored by the County of Maui. The oysters in Maalaea Bay are still working hard to filter sediment out of the water column, and we look forward to sharing that data as we continue checking them. A single adult oyster can filter between 40 and 50 gallons of water per day. You can adopt an oyster for just $7 to support our work in Maalaea. You can also make a donation to support Maui Nui Marine Resource Council and get a hip pack or one of our other great thank you gifts, from limited edition watercolor prints to our brand new hip packs and reusable food tins, carrying totes, and more. We've got a great selection of thank you gifts included with your donation. We appreciate your generous support as it allows us to continue to work to ensure clean ocean water, abundant fish, and healthy coral reefs around our islands. So if you've missed some or all of tonight's presentation, you'll be able to view it on Facebook Live on our Maui Nui Marine Resource Council Facebook page. And it will also be posted to our YouTube channel, Maui Reefs. Please follow us on social media as well for updates and news. And last but not least, we wanted to thank our sponsors and supporters who are making our work possible. And we also wish to thank individual donors like you. Mahalo for making a difference, and mahalo for joining us tonight. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you next month. Aloha.